Alright guys, Scrappy again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. The storylines continue going into the new season of the CDL, with Shotzzy making it very clear his most hated player to play against in the entire league is still none other than Cellium of the Atlanta FaZe. This I'm sure is true of many players in the league, but Shotzzy giving a roast we don't usually tend to see. Will this stay true though going into the new season, given that Cellium's playstyle of the World Cup was certainly rather different to what we saw elsewhere in the season? Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. Firstly, some Rostermania stuff. Beginning with Flames, who of course got his shot on the Los Angeles Grillers briefly last season. He came in for Assault. Obviously, Assault was not doing so well. He got kind of famous because of the ham warmer stuff at the first event of the season, but Flames came in alongside eStriel. They were a duo for some time. He did pretty well. I mean, Flames, when he first came in, popped, 1 versus 3 clutches. It was all going on. Then he fell off a little bit, wasn't quite the same on LAN, and of all the players on the roster, he was the one that did not get the spot at the World Cup, right? eStriel went over to the Minnesota Rocker, Fame subbed in for the Vegas Legion, Diamond Con went to Rocker as well, and Flames was left without a team because Gorillas decided not to attend because they're getting bought out by Gentlemates, is our current understanding. So Flames has kind of admitted, yeah, I'm not getting a league spot again, not yet anyway. He's going to go back to Challengers, so wishing him the best, because I think he was a player with some promise and some upsides. It's always difficult to say because, certain players join terrible teams. How easy is it to really know how good they are? It is difficult, for sure. So I think Flames, it's not like he was bad enough to the point where he wouldn't earn another opportunity. I mean, it's kind of like the Fire 40 situation we often talk about when he came in on the Paris Legion. And Fire is definitely a better player than he showed on the Paris Legion days, but just because he had such a torrid time, it's just difficult to imagine him getting back in. And, maybe the same story for a guy like Simp, for example, who had a rough stint this year in the CDL. Is he going to get easily picked up again? Unlikely. And probably the same reason why GodRx decided that after the Ravens stint, he was just done, because the Ravens stint was so bad that he was convinced, and probably understandably convinced, no one else is going to give him an offer. So he might as well just hang it up and call it a day rather than grinding through challenges for no avail over the next couple of years. One piece, though, of the puzzle on the Gorillas team is that Vio's, the coach of that roster, you guys remember the drama at the start of the year when they put that questionable roster together, right? And Mabel said, I don't even know who this guy is, or whatever, right? Because they were going to form that other team with Gunless and that was the rumor anyway. And then things changed around, and Vio's came in as their coach, and he formed the roster that they actually had for last season, which made the World Championship and came top 3 at the final event of the season, to their massive credit. And understandably, this guy deserves serious credit for that, but according to rumors right now, there's going to be no coaching opportunities available for him. So it's the same with the coaches as it is for many of the players. There's not that many league spots to go around, certainly if you're a coach, and given the fact that some of the budgets of these teams are reducing, so you're probably no longer going to see, well, to be fair, Paris Legion no longer exist. But the point is that even Paris would have like 2 coaches over the last couple of seasons. Some organizations now are going to say, we're just going to have 1, we ain't paying the extra cash, which, I kind of get it. Also, it's difficult, and it's just tricky, isn't it? Because you can make your name as a coach in challenges and do a great job in the league, but even that's not necessarily enough, because guys like Accuracy are going to retire, and then they're going to walk into the Cloud9 coaching spot for very good reason, by the way. Like, Accuracy absolutely deserves that spot if that's what he's going to do, but it just makes it challenging for players that don't necessarily, or coaches that don't necessarily have that tenure. There's talk about Mayhem as well, what he was doing that most recent season, coaching that FaZe Black team as well. I mean, I thought this part was pretty funny. And then also Ricky Atura won the Challengers World Championship as a coach. There's just, there is lots of coaching talent in the league. I think it's fair enough to say. It's just difficult to know how much talent there really is, because how do you gauge how valuable a coach is? It's kind of tough, and the teams will always look at players first, and then they might figure out the coaches later, unless there's a coach they trust, in which case they'll bring them on and allow them to build a team. And sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't work so well. But let's talk about some of the Rostermania stuff, of course, with how it affects the CDL teams themselves, especially at the upper echelon. Obviously, Envoy went over there to Toronto, stole Scrappy, brought him back to the Los Angeles Thieves, and the rest is history, of course. Thieves Thieves did mention, or at least Nadeshot did mention on Thieves, what are the chances of them hosting an event for the new season? Because I don't know where the events are going to be. Last year, there was, well, the CDL had to host their own one in their back garden, basically, because it wasn't going to plan. Carolina pulled out. Toronto, we're pretty sure they're still going to run one. Hopefully they do anyway. Champs, I mean, we'll see. The CDL themselves and Activision, they put the money up for that. The other events, though, because Activision has no money, well, they do have money, but apparently not enough money to commit to the resources that the CDL requires, despite the fact that it's phenomenal marketing for their game. But unfortunately, we are not in charge of the decision makers over there. So they will be trying the CDL to find people that want to host the events again. Boston, I don't know if they're going to do one. I kind of doubt it, actually. They've done a good event for sure for the last 2 years. I enjoyed my time out there in Boston, absolutely. But given they're pulling back this year somewhat, fewer salaries, they would run the event if they can make a profit from it, I would say. But I don't know how easy that would be to accomplish. And that's kind of what Nadeshot says as well, that these organizations, the CDL teams, they're not really event organizers, are they? Like, that's not their core competencies, to use a business term. OpTic have made that work, right? Because they have the Esports Stadium Arlington, they have a production team, or at least they had a production team. They still kind of do, but they let a few of those guys go after the World Championship, I believe. So OpTic could make it work, and, you know, other organizers can make it work too. But if you look at the CDL teams we have, going through and finding ones that are willing and able to run events at a reasonable price point, it's pretty few and far between. So, and look, Nadeshot says it takes a lot of work and a lot of money to make an event happen. It's not like he doesn't want to do it, but equally it took a lot of work and a lot of money to sign the team that they had. So either one, well, they signed the team for a lot of money and a lot of work, why not do it for an event? Or they've run out of money, which is the more likely option. So it seems kind of unlikely Thieves will host one. You look around the rest of the league though, you've got to wonder where this might be. I mean, we've been wondering for the last few years, why have FaZe not hosted an event? OpTic have done several. FaZe had not hosted one since 2020. They did a small little home series back then in Atlanta. But since then, there's been radio silence from Atlanta FaZe in terms of hosting an event. And I get it. I totally get it. But it's just, it would be nice to see other teams actually step up to the plate here, right? Of course, Falcons, they have the resources too. Gentlemates, they have the resources. You'd imagine maybe even, you know, an organization like Heretics, they could have the resources as well, depending where they wanted to run it. So I think there are some organizations that would be interested, but, you know, the CDL might have to subsidize it a bit. I don't know. I think there's a conversation on where the events are even going to be next season, because, as I said before, I'd love to have a world in which we're operating with 6 majors, plus the World Championship, plus the World Cup. The more events, the better as far as I'm concerned. The fewer online qualifiers, the better as far as I'm concerned. But I just don't know if the CDL will be able to find the hosts, right? I think that is actually the limitation. I don't think it's that the CDL doesn't want to run more events. I think they do. The fans want it, the teams want it, the players want it. But the money doesn't add up a lot of the time. And I think that might be one of the reasons why I'm not getting my hopes up that we're going to have more events this season, I think is the takeaway. Thankfully, we've got the World Cup as well, and that ain't going away anytime soon. But at the tournament that K-Sun and the guys put on that we saw conclude yesterday, Simp and aBeZy, they took second place in the end. Scrappy and HyDra took the victory, as we talked about yesterday, and it was Simp and aBeZy that took down Drazah and Shotzzy in the losers finals to get through to that point. And Shotzzy then, after the fact when the finals was going on, was talking about many things, to be fair, Call of Duty related, but he was also asked the question, who does he hate playing against the most in the CDL? Who is, in some respects, the most hated player? Not necessarily from like a personality perspective, but just in terms of you're spawning into a lobby, who do you hate to see on the other side? And there's really only one answer for that generally. It depends on the individual, because there's been some guys that have had their like nemesis on the other side of the server. I don't know what Slasher's answer to this would be, but it's kind of always been a thing. Well, to be fair, Shotzzy's record against Slasher in the CDL is ridiculous, but also historically, Slasher against Formal always tended to have his number. So, you know, it's not like Formal plays in a weird ratty way, but for Slasher, he might be like, I hate playing that Formal guy because he just cooked me all the time. For Cellium, that's not necessarily the case. I mean, obviously, OpTic have had FaZe's number the year before this year, but this year it was the other way around. So, Shotzzy gave his thoughts on this and said that Yeah, this guy Cell is dirty to play against, you know, one of the rattiest players, no doubt about it, if not the rattiest in the entire league. But I thought the way that he kind of talked about it was kind of entertaining, saying that it's not just about the fact that he plays slow and he can shoot straight, it's like the cruddy angles he takes and the fact that he plays the game like he has no money in his bank account.
If there's one person you hate playing against, who would it be?
One person I hate playing against?
Or like, yeah, like if you like, you're like, this person just like gives me problems. Is there anyone or not really?
No, you're good. Because usually I don't say anyone, but since the year's over, I'll say it. I don't know. MC played fucking weird last year. I mean, it'd be MC though, dude.
Yeah.
I probably have to give it to MC. Even though he played weird as fuck last year, I'd probably say MC. He's just a cruddy, bro. He's just fucking dirty, dude.
Ultimate.
We call it, he plays poor. Like, he plays like he has no money, essentially. If that makes sense.
So I thought that was pretty funny, right? Playing the game, but like you've got no money. Like you're playing a $1 CMG chow back in the day or whatever, right? And you're just absolutely doing everything it takes to get that dollar in the bank account. And yeah, in fairness, that is sometimes the way it seems that Cellium does play the game. Plays in the rattiest spots, will always do everything to maximize his potential advantage. And it's just very annoying to play against because, you know, you can see it from the POVs of those that play against him. He's just in some position that makes him impossible to kill. And also, I think what annoys players playing against him is that sometimes you'll die to Cell and you'll think, obviously not me, but you know what I mean, an actual good player who's in the league somewhere, and you'll think, was that the best play? Like, why is Cell there? He's helping his team or is he not, right? And I think that sometimes can get to the players as well. The reality is that at the World Cup, Cell played in a different way. There were rumours as well over the last few weeks that Cellium thought after Champs getting top 6 that he was getting dropped. He knew he had to turn up big time at the World Cup, and if he didn't, it was going to be a different story. So it seems like he decided just play a bit faster. And that's what eventually happened. Even Preb was talking about it, saying that, well, about time you actually applied some pressure here on the map. And that's what happened. I mean, we can compare some of the numbers. This was Cellium's World Championship card. So he only played a couple of series, but he was 1 in 2. Of course, they went out top 6 in the end. And to be fair, it's not like he played terrible, but for Cellium's standards, this was not good at all. An 85 overall. His Search and Destroy, great. 0.91 kills per round, best of the ARs. Control and Search and Destroy in the objective category, 99 overall ARs, but in Control, 16 kills per 10, 3,600 damage per 10, in Hardpoint, 19 kills per 10, you know, 3,800 damage per 10, nothing special going on there. By comparison, this card was his overall World Cup card, where he played far more matches over the course of the tournament, had a 92 overall, and arguably could have been stronger, because the KDs were ludicrous, and still, in terms of like overall kills per 10 and stuff, it's not like he was the best in the AR category, and that's why his overall rating isn't like ridiculous, but he won the event and was the MVP by miles and had one of the best tournaments ever that we've seen, genuinely, I would say, in Call of Duty history, right? The numbers do speak for themselves, and just to compare the relative numbers, I mean, not looking so much at the objective work, but it is interesting to see, certainly in Control, 1.6 ticks per round at the World Cup, he had 2.6 ticks per round at the World Championship, but 16 kills per 10 compared to 20 kills per 10. And the same story in Hardpoint, 24 kills per 10 minutes in the World Cup, 19.5 kills per 10 minutes at the World Championship. So Cellium undisputedly played a different style at the World Cup. The numbers absolutely speak to that in existence as well. And this is, you know, one of the reasons why people also hate playing Cellium is because he's damn good. I think that is really what it comes down to at the end of the day. You know, it's difficult to play against a guy that you feel like is going to be a difficult kill on the map, but especially I think for a guy like Shotzzy as well, the way that Shotzzy plays, he's going to round around, he's going to play aggressive, and if he runs into an AR sitting on a mean heady that arguably shouldn't be there, obviously it's going to be annoying, right, to run into. So yeah, Shotzzy said he played weird last year, but the reality is that Cellium's playstyle was maybe not so effective for the start of the season, but towards the end, certainly the World Cup, that seemed to be a rather different story. But very much interested to your thoughts in the comment section below. Just one final thing here, Method is talking about why the breakdown is on pause. Basically, Method's point of view is that it doesn't really work so well as a live show, and I'll let him explain why. He also makes an interesting point, which is what I've said numerous times, on the fact that him and Scump are too agreeable, is the way that he describes it, or just that they are agreeable. Like, they tend to agree with each other on many points, and that's fine. They think about the game the same way. The reality is, though, as like a show for entertainment, There's got to be some sort of disagreement in there somewhere, in my opinion, and you know, that's why he reckons it works better as a VOD product rather than a live product, but we'll see what they come up with for the new season. But very much interested in your thoughts in the comments as always. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.
Breakdown still happening. I don't really know what we want to do with the breakdown. I mean, I've said my opinion on the breakdown. If we do the breakdown, I want it to be VOD only. I don't think the breakdown makes sense as a live product. It's, once again, it's kind of like watching a show for 8 hours and then watching the same episode directly after. So I don't really like the live product breakdown. I do think it was getting a bit stale. I think the fun segments are fun. I think me and Seth are too agreeable, so it's like there isn't really a live audience for it because like you don't really need to be tuned in because me and Seth kind of think about COD the same way. So I think if we do the breakdown, we probably tweak it a bit. I would like to make it VOD only.